What if I told you the world's most powerful empire doesn't have an army, doesn't own land, and doesn't even need a single dollar to control trillions? An empire so vast, its influence touches every paycheck, every loan, every government decision, yet you'll never see its flag or borders. This is the story of the hidden empire of money, the one that rules not through force but through finance. Most people believe that money equals power. But what if the ones who create it don't own it? The modern financial system isn't built on wealth, it's built on debt. Every dollar in your bank account began as a promise, not value. And behind that promise lies a small group of private institutions, the central banks. They create the money governments borrow, and in return, gain quiet control over entire economies. Without owning a single real dollar, they decide how many exist. The story begins centuries ago, in the early days of European banking. Goldsmiths, the first bankers, realized people rarely withdrew their gold all at once. So they began issuing more paper receipts than gold they actually had. They discovered the secret. Wealth could be created from nothing. Strict lending money that doesn't exist became the foundation of modern banking. Fast forward to 1913. In the shadows of political negotiation, the United States created the Federal Reserve, a private consortium of bankers with the legal power to issue America's currency. It was sold as a measure to stabilize the economy. But in truth, it transferred the power to create money from the government to the banks themselves. The moment that act was signed, a new kind of empire was born, one that ruled not through territory but through credit. Wars, recessions, and global trade all fed the system. Every crisis demanded more loans, more money. And each time governments borrowed, the empire grew stronger. When nations print or borrow more currency, the value of existing money falls. Inflation quietly transfers wealth from the public to those who create the new money first. It's not theft in the open, it's a silent redistribution of power. The rich don't get richer because they work harder. They get richer because they stand closer to the money printer. Then came 1971. President Nixon ended the gold standard, cutting the dollar's link to real value. From that moment on, money became pure trust, or pure illusion. Now, whenever a government runs out of funds, it doesn't need to cut spending. It simply prints more. Debt isn't a flaw in the system. It is the system. The more we depend on it, the more control the hidden empire gains. Today, global debt exceeds $300 trillion, more than 3 times the world's total economic output. But if every country is in debt, who is the creditor? The answer is not a single nation. It's a network of private central banks, investment giants, and institutions that lend to nations, not people. Their profits don't come from creating value. They come from interest on money that was never real to begin with. This is how the world's richest entities control wealth without owning it. Every time you swipe a card, take a loan, or pay interest, you feed the system. Central banks now manipulate interest rates, money supply, and even digital currencies to shape economies like clay. In 2020, during the global lockdowns, over 40% of all US dollars in existence were printed in a single year. The empire doesn't hide anymore. It just wears a suit and calls itself monetary policy. But the more money that's created, the more fragile the illusion becomes. Inflation eats away at savings. Debt burdens grow heavier, and slowly, faith in the system starts to crack. Because when people stop believing in money, they start to see what it really is. A promise backed by nothing. So what do we learn from this hidden empire? First, money is not wealth, it's control. Second, debt is not a mistake, it's a mechanism. And third, the more you depend on the system, the less you truly own. The empire that controls money doesn't need gold, armies, or borders. Because it already owns the one thing that matters most: belief. When belief collapses, so does the empire. If this story opened your eyes, remember, the balance in your account isn't the balance of power. That's hidden, silent, and controlled by those who own nothing, yet control everything.